Welcome everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. August 8th, 2023 Board of Commissioner meeting. Glad you all are here. We've got a pretty lengthy agenda. A couple of coffee, double sides. Any announcements, gentlemen? Ladies?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners 116th Annual Conference in Wake County, August the 24th through the 26th. We usually designate a voting delegate. Will anybody be attending that? And if so,
Volunteers, Gary? I mean volunteers.
and it's certainly not a requirement. Just if we were going to be in attendance, we would have to have one designated. So we would need to do that at this meeting.
I'll have to check dates. I have my wife in a move that had an operation on the leg, so we're buddying and moving around.
Any volunteers?
I'll double check my dates as well, but I think I'm committed to those kids.
Fair enough.
Coaching football.
If anything differs, we can certainly circle back around.
Are you going?
I don't
We
know.
don't have to answer that in
I'll have to
public.
check. I'll have to
We'll put it all in the calendar, check it.
With no commissioners going, I don't know that.
It's 24 through 26.
Yeah.
If anybody's got it, if that opens up for anybody, let Derek know.
Okay. And
You know, we're not together.
We'll just designate the voting delegate from there, and if not, we'll just
Go ahead and make
share
sure.
by proxy.
Any other announcements?
Yeah, Danny and I met this morning with the Recreation Committee meeting, and McGill and Associates presented their first initial phase of the design for the rec park. I was impressed.
Is that available for review?
It will be in the next few weeks.
For next month's meeting, but it
and
was really impressive.
It was really designed by public input. And what did he say, Danny, that what was the percentage that the general public said that they absolutely supported?
About a covered pool?
No, for the actual park.
I can't remember the percentage.
It's a
but
beautiful design, and I think the general
the
public,
concept is awesome.
once it's finalized, is going to be really impressed.
All right, so we can get a copy of that. I'd love to see it. Had a community club meeting in Adjourn last night. Mr. Shields and I were there. Danny was there, he just didn't make it to the building. Jeff Lee presented on a broadband to the Adjourn community, and man, that's one of the best presentations I've ever heard. I understand the concept of what we're doing in Nantahala. We're trying to link all of our emergency services to this broadband, to a high-speed internet, and he explained the reasons for that and did an excellent job. Even won the naysayers in the community over. The community's 100% behind it now, and it was Jeff did a good job.
And thank to Warren K. He's got the buildings, they're his arenas, or his help during the broadband meetings.
Good job. Any other announcements? All right, if you all we'll stand for a moment of silence and do the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Sherrill, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after silence? Right.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I don't think we have any public hearings tonight, do we? Do we have any public comments, Sheriff? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Again, just as a reminder on the public comment period, if we can limit it to 5 minutes, if you can set it before 5 minutes is up, we would appreciate that. It gives us a little more time, and there's some times there. So first is Scott Basty.
Face the turkey.
Hey, I miss it every time. One
I
of
know, we'll
these
get
days.
it one of these days.
How you doing, Scott?
I'm good,
I
ain't
see
you,
you
Paul?
Guns age.
What?
Hey,
I know it. Well, we moved away for 12 years.
Oh,
We've been back for a year now.
I slipped, so.
Back to talk about the library. All right, I watched the recording of YouTube from the meeting the other night. Devastating, devastating. They were arguing about a book that ain't even in the library. Well, you can't, there's two of them in all North Carolina libraries, two of these copies of this book. So I read the book, because what's the big deal, right? It's trash according to some. That book has been printed for 20 years. It's been translated to 35 languages, right? It's been around a long time. All of a sudden, it's a big deal, right? All of a sudden, now we're worried about it grooming our kids. It's a library book. It ain't even in the library. I know that there's a big move now to change the structure of the library, and it looks like all the counties are on board. That's fine. I just hope that the people that we send to the library board will actually be representative of what's in the library and be concerned about the concerns of the library and not getting people all riled up about something that ain't even in our program. That book is not, I checked, there's like 2 counties in this whole state that have that book, right? And the only other thing I want to say, and I'll be real short, I had a lot of other stuff to say, but driving in, I passed the Presbyterian church, and they got this sign out front that's like my sign. It's like, should be all of our signs. It says, love your neighbor who doesn't look like you, think like you, love like you, speak like you, pray like you, or vote like you. And that's what I encourage all of us in Macon County to do. Love our neighbors, no matter what their beliefs are.
Amen. Thank you, Scott. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you, Scott.
Betsy?
What's my last name? Come on, everybody.
I don't like multiple choice.
It's based, like based a turkey. Good evening, gentlemen.
Y'all were down to Tanaris the last time I saw you, right?
What's that?
Y'all lived at Tanaris?
Yes, we did.
You still do?
No, we're further down Tessentine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
We still love
Still in the hall.
that area. Yep, love Otto. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about the public notice announcement about the FRL. This was posted on your site. Position of the Macon County Board of Commissioners regarding the Fontana Regional Library Agreement. I just printed it out so I'd have an easy reference here. This was on the website. As a result of the conversation that this happens every 10 years, which good, we should always review these things every 10 years, maybe 5 years, but whatever. The counties, 3 counties are looking into 2 things. Provisions which give parents greater ability to set restrictions over what materials their minor children can check out while still remaining in compliance with the law. That's a great idea. I love that. Parents parenting and saying what their kids should and should not do when they're in a public space. Have at it. Let's do that. That's a great thing. And I like the part about while remaining in compliance of the law. Yeah, I mean, but parents should be watching out for what their kids are doing, 100%. Number 2, I'm a little concerned about, mainly because I'm concerned about y'all. The structure and authority of the respected local county boards and regional boards. And what the structure that we're looking at, according to the letter that y'all wrote, is that the revision is that we move the appointment authority for the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees from the local county library board, who currently, that's in the bylaws, that's who makes the appointments, to make you guys do it. Aren't you busy? Don't you already have a lot going on of trying to, really do what's best for the county, which I know you all do. That's what you're here for. I know and trust that each one of you are here for that thing, to make this county good, right? And keep it going strong and keep supporting the people in the county. Why would you want to take this on? That's my 2 cents. That's all I'm saying. Seems like if you appoint the library board and the library board appoints the FRL board, you already appointed them. You already said, yeah, do it. So you've done your job. Why do it twice? you know, save yourself some time and energy and just do all the other million things you have to do.
Still under review.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Kristen Brown.
So I recently met Gracie at Sunny's Music Lounge and learned about her effort to bring mental health services for children. And this is something that is becoming a greater and greater need, but I wanted to speak and give support to her because I was her age. The first time thoughts of suicide popped in my head, praying to die. I was 17. I don't think anybody at the school knew that I made an attempt to kill myself. And I had had plans to do it by the time I had dropped out, which no one had any idea. When I told Mr. Shields about what I wanted to speak about my depression throughout middle school and high school, about how I hid it well, and so many children hide this. So many parents know their teens or they're even younger are struggling with this stuff, and they don't know where to go, especially in a small county like this, when people gossip over the slightest little thing. Like, I'm shaking over the thought of speaking about this on camera because it is such a huge stigma. But I am so open about my mental health struggles because I know every time I speak on it, someone else who can relate to it will see what I'm sharing, my struggles with finding the right medications. I've been hospitalized 3 times. The first time was linked to postpartum depression, and thankfully I had TRICARE at the time. So I was able to have the $10,000 bill paid for by TRICARE. Otherwise, I would still be trying to pay it down. The second time I was put on the wrong medication on accident and had to be in the Franklin Hospital 72 hours. But thankfully I was able to balance back out. I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then the third time I was hospitalized, I lost my TRICARE. I ran out of medication and I had to spend another 2 weeks in the hospital. But my mental health might not have gotten to the point that it had if there had been more earlier outreach, like with recognizing things like that in the youth. And I'm 33, and I already have had several of my classmates who are no longer here in connection to either suicide or addiction or drunk driving DUIs. And that number is rising. The number of children who are attempting to take their lives at younger ages is rising, and we need to do something about it, and it's long overdue. But like I said, most people had no idea how depressed I was in middle school and high school. You know, like, I don't know if there's some sort of surveys we could try to do to like reach out to kids, but one of the problems too, in the elementary schools, the guidance counselors, you know, are there for mental health support, but with the high school level, the guidance counselors' focus becomes more on preparing for college, when the stress of all that is one of the greatest times for students to be needing the mental health support. And then I've got a minute left, but I happen to have a creative writing class with Mr. Fates, and I thought I'd mention him specifically because that writing was part of what was able to let the school realize just how depressed I was, and for them to try and reach out and help me. But like, who do you turn to when your child is going through this? When we need support groups. We need some more programs possibly in the summer, because not every child in this county goes back to a loving, supporting home. Some of them go back to alcoholics. We have programs to get lunches delivered to the library and to the schools, but what about these kids that you know, they need somewhere in the summer to go to. You know, and I know you, Mr. Antoine, you've been really supportive to my son when he was in karate, so yeah, I'm sure you'll agree that what Gracie's speaking on is something that we drastically need.
Yeah.
We need more mental health services for youth.
You know, Kristen, thank you for, being brave enough to actually share this publicly. And I, for one, I'm so glad you're still here.
Yeah.
I really am. So we're definitely working on this aspect of it, okay?
But this past July, another one of the classmates from East Franklin is no longer with us. It's just, and it seems like it's more and more.
Linda Tyler?
Okay, as Paul said, my name's Linda Tyler. I'm a resident in Macon County for at least the past 45 years. I'm a retired Macon County employee. 26 years as a public health nurse at the Macon County Public Health Center. And tonight I'm going to speak about the library, and I am a member of the library, Macon County Public Library Board, but I'm speaking tonight as myself. I'm not speaking as a representative of the board. Basically, I wanted to say that traditionally the commissioners have relied strongly on recommendations of the local library board when they are appointing new members to the board. And they seem to continue to do so with other board appointments. Based on comments I heard at the last commissioners meeting where they were saying, well, is this person recommended by whatever board it was, I don't remember right now, and was told yes before they voted on them. But I hope that you will continue to take the recommendations of the local boards, the library board and other boards, into consideration when you are making appointments. I know that back in February, we had turned in several recommendations for library board appointees, and I know that, at least 2 or 3 of those that were turned in during February or early part of March were well qualified. And they include one person who had been a county commissioner, been president of Rotary, been on the hospital board, planning board, a number of community activities that certainly made them a very qualified person, but they weren't chosen, and no one was even brought forward to be appointed for 2 or 3 months. So, those delays don't help any boards do their job properly, and I hope that you're able to move more quickly and look at the qualifications of the board members in the future. I can't speak to the recommendations really at this point that you've gotten about the changes in appointing Fontana Regional Library Board members. I don't know enough about how that decision was made, but I do hope that you will remember that, just like you were all elected to serve all of Macon County, all of the people in Macon County. The library is there to serve all the people of Macon County. We don't always agree with one another, like Mr. Bass said. We may think differently and have different opinions, but we want to include everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Mary Ann Ingram.
Thank you for a moment of your time. It's Mary Ann Ingram. I live in Franklin since 1995 and have loved every moment of it. But what I wanted to say is to each of you, thank you, and the tax, property tax people, thank you for working so hard to minimize what our property taxes would be and have become, and doing everything they possibly could to help folks who were going to be distressed by what was going to happen to them. But I'm grateful that ours was, it was an easy one. I mean, I didn't have to bite a bullet. It was an easy one. The other thing I would like to speak about is the 25 the quarter cent tax that the county voted down in the last election. We have a lot of, I've listened to all of you talk about the agenda that we have, the projects that are going to be going on in the county, the amount of money that it's going to take. And as Mr. Shields did so much work last year about this, it is just inconceivable. I just got through going to a conference over at Cherokee, and I had to pay 8% tax over there, no, 7.5% tax over there to have my booth in a conference. And here we are, we voted it down, and I hope that you all will look at that again and bring it back up. And if all of you would be supportive of it, we probably could get it passed. And it would take a lot of burden off of the county, off of your backs, and figuring out where are we going to get this money for this project and that project without ticking off a lot of people. So, and remember, Mr. Shields said that this was going to be paid by 45% of this will be from people who are just passing through Macon County, stopping at a convenience store and paying the tax. You'd have to spend $5 to get one more penny on your bill. That's a no-brainer, guys. So please, please, think about that again.
Thank you. Olga Peter?
How you doing?
Good.
It's good to see you.
Nice, same here. Olga Pater, I'm a resident of Macon County, and I don't feel really good about speaking right now because I see two people already saw what is in the letter regarding the library, but I haven't. So my comment basically is going to be that I've taken 6 grandchildren to the Macon County Library, ranging in ages from 20 to 4. And that our library was always a center of learning, of a staff that really took care of children and cared for children. And the library staff is one of us. And they would not do to our children anything that they would not do for their own. So I think that whatever decision has been made, and it seems like it's going to take the appointment of the library board people away from the board itself, that we should sort of leave it alone. If nothing is really wrong with the Macon County Library, we should just step back and let it be. And there was a lot of hoopla made about nothing really, because there was a process in place to address the grievances that people were having. And I think we should not join, we don't have to join the national trend. We are Macon County, we are different. I am here because this is a place where there's community, where there's tradition, where there's care. And so let's not join that bandwagon that is leading no place. Let's leave the library as it is.
Thank you. Sean Lim?
All right. I thought I was last.
I think.
She is last.
Pardon?
I think she is last.
I'm last on the agenda.
Yeah, recommending an appointment on the jury.
You're welcome to public comment.
You
are on, well, the appointment is the last thing on the agenda, about 1:30 in the morning if you want.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll leave on the agenda now.
Okay. But I'm not denying you the right to speak on whatever topic you want to talk about.
Yes, sir.
That's our clerk of court, so she's elected, we can pick on her.
Yes, sir.
David Strayer and Ron Lewis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Welcome, gentlemen.
other commissioners, administrative staff. Thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you tonight. I'm David Streeter, the Education Director for Foundation Forward, and this is my colleague, Mr. Ron Lewis, who is Governmental Affairs. And we are the nonprofit organization that built and gifted and installed the Charters of Freedom that's, I'm turned around right now in front as you come in to the side entrance of the building. And anyway, as our society has evolved, so has Foundation Forward, the Charters of Freedom. And to show you how we are trying to stay up to date with everything within our society and our nation, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lewis and let him tell you about what we have tonight as an addendum to the Charters of Freedom. And then when he finishes, I would like to have about 30 seconds for a couple of closing comments, please.
Welcome, man.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm an old county manager.
We've heard enough.
I did 30 years as trying to please 5 distinct personalities. And that's a pretty tough task.
Congratulations.
But thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. As Dr. Streeter said, he's a retired educator, I'm a retired county manager. We get to have fun every day now. So our organization is Foundation Forward. We stood that organization up as a 501c3 about 12 years ago. We have built and dedicated 26 Charters of Freedom in North Carolina. There's 4 that's been finished but not dedicated. That puts us up 30. We have a 5 under construction. That gives us 35. Our goal over the next 2 to 3 years is to build Charters of Freedom like the one that you have in front of your building for all 100 counties in North Carolina. And we're well underway. We have about 65 more to go. And I really believe that we will accomplish that goal. Well, what we're here tonight to do is to give a supplemental gift to the county. A couple of years ago, I was making a presentation down in Monroe, North Carolina. And when we finished, a young African-American council member said to me, "Mr. Lewis, you did a good job, but you didn't do anything for me." And I kind of stood back and scratched my head, and we began to ponder what this young man was saying to us. We went back to our staff, we sat down around the conference table and realized we had a problem. So we set out to solve that problem. And we created what we call the Civil Rights Amendments. See, this great country was created in such a way that allowed the Constitution to be amended, as Dr. Streeter said, as society changed. So we now showcase the 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, and 24th Amendments as the Civil Rights Amendments. They make all of us the same, regardless of the color of your skin or your gender or where you're originally from in this world. We're all citizens of the United States of America and have the rights afforded to us by that Constitution. Dr. Streeter and I went back to Monroe about 6 months later to make a follow-up presentation. And the young man that questioned us before was so moved that he had tears running down his cheek, because we had taken what he said seriously and went back and tried to solve the problem. So it gives us a great deal of pride, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, to present the Civil Rights Amendments to your beautiful county.
Wow.
We had a beautiful drive out from Morganton tonight to your beautiful county. And I have one of the people that's been to all 100 counties in North Carolina. And I can confidently say that if there's a prettier place in the state of North Carolina than Macon, I haven't seen it.
Ditto that, brother.
You live in a very
We're blessed.
great community.
Okay, how do we do this, gentlemen?
Turn it around.
All right, man.
These two gentlemen stand right here and
No.
try to get
Sit right up here, Ron.
Okay. Here, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it to you.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Okay, let's put that in.
You want to put it up
Put it
here
up
for
here.
for a picture?
Get these two gentlemen right here, one on each side.
And we don't want to knock anything off.
We're going to block the chairman.
Yeah,
He's not gonna-
Yeah, you don't sweat about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're over our 5 minutes.
May I have just a moment?
But there's something in it for us. We can adjust that now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. That's quite a.
Yeah, if I can have just a
Yes,
moment.
sir. Absolutely. I believe we're going to find a prominent place.
What we would like you to do with this is to pass it around throughout the public school system and any private schools and home schools. And then, once that's done, pass it through the towns that are in the county, through all their departments, and the same thing with the county. Have someone take it and explain to them what it is, where it came from, and then once all of that is over, to put it in an appropriate place as close as possible to the setting that is outside. Obviously, this will not stand up to the weather like the one outside, but that's what we would like. And I will leave my contact information with you if you would like some help in doing that, or for me to get together with someone. The other thing is, hopefully I have not been able to contact anyone in town with the local newspaper, but I write a monthly article that goes along with the Charters of Freedom and everything, and I would love for them to be a part of that. Currently, I have just under 70 newspapers that carry that article monthly across the country, as far north as Alaska, down into Florida, Georgia, of course, and then surrounding other states. So, but
Is there a little plaque on this identifying the contributor or anything?
There's an authentication number on the back. About a week from now, the county manager will receive a letter documenting the authenticity. Who's the county manager?
Someone back here with the press.
We'll send Derek a letter that authenticates this. Mr. Chairman,
That needs to go with it.
thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for serving whatever county you're in.
Let me say one thing. We got a new superintendent, school superintendent. Josh, stand up there.
Hey there.
He will be one to help make sure that the schools get the opportunity to have that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
As a county
Thank you, Doctor.
manager, I was
You're
sued
welcome.
3
Thank
times
you.
by the Board of Education.
You gotta behave.
But Mr. Chairman, you also have an Andy Griffin sheriff back there. He doesn't carry a pistol.
It's on there. He's got it.
It's time for this old Navy guy to get the Marine.
Be all right if we addressed you as Barney from now on?
That's fine. It don't matter to me. I've been called a lot worse.
Just don't call you Barney. Thank you, Brent. All right, gentlemen, that is the end of, anybody else got anything they want to say? Sit down, Ms. Keezer, please. All right, thank you, folks. Additions to the agenda.
Yes.
We can add Gracie under
FG.
presentations.
New business.
We'll do it on adjustments. No reports of presentation. We'll put on it.
Okay. I guess that's 9A.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, gentlemen? Under additions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we need to add the release of a bond for the Whiteside cottages.
Oh, yeah.
Director of Planning, Permitting, and Development, Mr. Joe Allen's with us here tonight. And if we could, that will be new business. Unfortunately, Joe, I'm sorry. So that I seen, that is, well, did we approve the original bond, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, that's old business. 11D, or well, 10D.
10D.
10D. Now Warren's mad, 'cause Warren thought he had one on him.
All right, anything else, gentlemen? Adjustments to and approval of agenda. Any adjustments, gentlemen, other than those we just mentioned?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, reports and presentations. Gracie, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm too short. Good evening. I am here tonight to speak to you all about another topic that goes hand in hand with the youth mental health crisis I am advocating and raising awareness for. One of the many traumas us children are dealing with are children who have lost their mom and or dad to opioids and other drugs. Based on my information, the money from the lawsuits from the drug manufacturers and the drug distributors have even divided up to the states and each county has been asked to submit a plan on how these funds are being distributed and how it will be used. My request is to have at least 20% of this money used for youth mental health programs and to opioid orphans children. This letter is going to Macon County, North Carolina Senator Kevin Corbin, North Carolina DHHS Secretary Cody Kinsley, U.S. Congressman Chuck Edwards, and North Carolina child Tiffany Gladly. Dear Sirs or Ma'am, Gracie Parker, founder of Why Us Kids, would like to know how the upcoming opioid money and any other funding for substance abuse or lawsuits that come to North Carolina will be used and divided. I hereby request that the state requires each county appropriates at least 20% of this lawsuit money for prevention of youth mental health programs, trauma counselors in all schools for kids aged 5 to 13. This is an area that is currently completely overlooked and lacks the necessary funding to provide the help they need now, as well as to continue and improve programs for kids 13 to 18. We request a clear overview and breakdown on who this money will go to and specific details how it will be spent. I am working with local other organizations and other state organizations in other states on youth mental health and the need for trauma counselors in our schools, starting with the elementary school level. I have been asked to speak in Washington, D.C. next month, and I will have the opportunity to speak to legislators in the House and Senate. I am also developing a workshop on how to start a movement in your own backyard based on my experiences, and will hold the first one in Washington, D.C., then back here. I have been asked to speak in Washington, D.C. next month? Yeah. September. Yeah. And I will have the opportunity. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight, and I hope to hear back from you before I go to Washington on September 18th.
Thank you, Gracie. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem.
Is that all you have, Gracie? Tell you what, let me give you one so you can give it to the press.
Okay.
And let them find over that one. I'll copy one off from these gentlemen here. Pardon?
Brittany.
Gracie.
Brittany. You got it?
You got it? Okay. Good.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. Good job.
if I could.
My
before we-
only question is, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm
My
sorry,
only
Sweet.
question is, do you think we can have that 20% used on youth mental health?
I'll let the county manager give you an update. He just attended a meeting a week ago.
Gracie, yes, and Gracie, I'll tell you, what we're doing right now is they're getting, because all these counties around the region, there's so much money coming in to all of our 7 counties. The Southwestern Commission, which is kind of Macon County and all of the counties in this region, are a member of that. So they've hired a consultant that's came in, and what they're doing is pulling all the counties together and getting input as the best way to use these monies. And they're gonna bring those suggestions back to the Board of Commissioners, and I think it would be great. You know, you're such an excellent voice and a great advocate for the youth and the mental health and everything. I think that it would certainly be great if you could talk to them, and I can see if I can set that up for you, and to share your input, because I think it is a huge problem, and you're doing a great job of going out and being a good advocate. So I can put you in touch with those folks and allow you to have a voice in that process as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Has anything to do with Pyramid coming in here?
Or is it done?
That's one of the, that is something, that is an idea. So there's all kind, like I say, there's Pyramid is one avenue that has come in here. That did not come from the consultant of the Southwestern Commission. That was something that is kind of, the state has asked us to evaluate. And they are evaluating that along with everything else. But right now they're just trying to get all these good ideas and things from all the counties and put those into something, put those in a plan for the commissioners of each county to evaluate. Pyramid's good, but also there's a lot of good programs organically that have came up here in Macon County. Men's Teen Challenge, programs like that REACH does a great job helping and assisting people, and we've got all kinds of good programs. And so it's been talked about, how do we make what we've got better, and also how do we expand and offer more help. So that's what this consultant is working with the Southwestern Commission to help these 7 counties figure out. So it's a great time. It's actually good timing, Gracie, that you were here tonight, and good to get in on the front end of this and hear that voice. And
Yeah, because there's a lot of people trying to grab a hold of that.
That's
money.
right, that's right. And so they were just trying to.
So the community needs to know how that money's going to be.
That's right.
Instead of-
That's right. And I think once the plan comes from the Southwestern Commission, I think at that point, then that's when it gets local and we start having the local discussions on what's contained in there. But right now it's still in the planning phase, because as you know, you got 18 years, 16 or 18 years of draws on that money. So it's not like the county just received a lump sum. So it's a balance of figuring out what is the best solution, and is there something that these counties can combine their funding for that would really benefit the region. So all those things are being looked at, and that consultant is going through that process right now.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm a grandmother, Elkie Kennedy.
Nice to meet you.
One of the things that I miss, okay, in most of the discussions is prevention. How do we prevent, okay, from people keep filling that pool at the end when people are addicted to drugs or they are in jail because of those things? Okay, take care of our children now up front. Okay, give them the help they need now, right? So we can take care of the people that need taken care of now. I'm not saying that they don't need taken care of, but I'm just saying
let's start this generation off in the right path, right? Let's give them the opportunity there so they can grow up to be healthy, productive adults.
Absolutely. Gracie, do you have my email?
I don't think so, but I can get it. Or if you have a card, I'll get it for you.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
You can mail it, you can do me, and I'll make sure he gets it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
No problem.
Stay involved.
Always.
Whole business. Discussion regarding additional services for the Franklin High School project. LS3P Senior Project Manager Emily Kite.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Kite is going to be joining us tonight via Zoom. I'm going to have to conduct a little technical stuff here, so just bear with me.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound.
Might ask for a pint of blood.
You are in the meeting now. There are 2 participants in the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are unmuted.
Emily, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. Move your microphone. Okay, Emily, can you say that again, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I believe that's as good as we're going to do here, unless I can find the volume on this.
Arrows at the bottom of your thumbs.
Yeah. Okay. Emily, can you go ahead one more time?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay. We're good. Thank you, Emily, and thank you again for joining us.
Well, thanks for accommodating my remote status today. I appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, again, Emily, thank you for joining us here tonight. I think the discussion comes back. I think first on the list is the Franklin High School project. You have in your agenda packet here the documents that are additional services, and Emily can certainly speak to that. The first one is from Kessel Engineering Group. We have to, in the site design, as we were adjusting the site design in the planning phase, it's requiring us to fill down into Frogtown. And so there are new test sites there that have been identified by Kessel Engineering Group that need testing. This proposal comes in at $11,500 for this geotechnical service. And there are also some additional locations that we have identified that we need some survey work done at, and Emily can certainly speak more to that. Mr. Chairman, those services, with the $11,500, we have received a preliminary quote for those services of $8,000. So therefore, we would be asking for a total amount to deal with these changes not to exceed $20,000 for each of these services. Emily, do you have anything you would like to add, maybe a little more detail on the surveying portion of it?
Sure. We've identified a couple of areas of information around the perimeter of our site, specifically the area north of
where the new building will sit up into the Frogtown property that were not surveyed as part of the original scope of the survey. Additionally, we've got some stormwater, primarily stormwater, existing stormwater infrastructure information that we'd like to be able to gather along Wyeth Street and at the intersection of Wyeth Street and Phillips Street at the edge of the school's property, as we've got some tie-ins and connections from the stormwater infrastructure that would be part of the project on our property into those existing larger stormwater systems. And so those are the pieces of information sort of at the periphery of our site that would be kind of critical in terms of survey to get some additional information.
Now, on the soil analysis on the Frogtown side, is that necessary since that's considered to be fill? I know they're worried about unstable slope, but is the soil evaluations necessary if you're going to cover it with fill? What is the purpose?
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
That is the recommendation of our engineers, is that we do need some additional soil analysis, primarily because we want to make sure that what we're filling on top of is stable enough to support the weight and the volume of the dirt that we're going to be putting on that property. And if we need to do any additional sort of stabilizing measures to make sure that that fill condition remains stable over time, it's certainly the recommendation of our team that we do conduct the geotech exploration in that area right now.
Question, gentlemen?
So this work, Emily, is pertaining to phase 1 or phase 2? Or both?
It would be pertaining to stormwater for sure on the survey is critical in phase 1. And to the extent that we're going to be doing some building pad grading as part of phase 1, the geotech exploration, I think, is certainly can happen right now. If there's still some uncertainty about when the phases are going to be done, I think the primary geotech work would be in support of the bigger phase of the high school building construction.
Thank you.
All right, we got two things here. We want to do these as one.
We actually have 3 action items.
Kessel is one.
A resolution. We have a resolution exempting surveying services for Franklin High School project from the provisions of Article 3D of Chapter 143 of the North Carolina General Statutes. And then a resolution exempting engineering services according to that same statute. And then a budget amendment from contingency. And Derek, you said 20,000?
Yes, not to exceed.
So a budget amendment for 20,000 from contingency to go towards these 2 items.
Surveying and the
Yeah, the
soil.
survey, the engineering. So 3 items there. I think you can act on them all together, but.
We'll let you sort it out.
The 2 resolutions and the budget amendment for 20K from general fund contingency. I think you could act on all of them at one time.
You've heard the
Unless
options.
County attorney objects.
Heard the option, gentlemen. What's your pleasure?
Emily, let me just clarify real quick. So what I understand, we're gonna build some roads, bring in a drill rig. They're gonna drill, dig test holes to encompass Frogtown into the campus. And that's the intent.
We'll do it with a backhoe.
Correct.
Am I right?
We'll do it with a backhoe.
Yes.
Track hoe.
Backhoe and a drill rig.
They said you can't get
They will not. They will be digging test pits because when they went out to take a look at the feasibility of drilling core samples in that area, the steepness of that property has presented a challenge with regards to getting a drill rig out there, and so their approach will be to dig test pits in that location in lieu of core samples.
6 pits, 10, 12 foot deep.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion. We make a budget amendment for $20,000. Also, to approve a resolution exempting engineering services and surveying services.
I second that motion.
Got a motion second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect 4-1. Thank you, Emily.
Mr. Chairman.
Next.
Before, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. Before we move forward, we have Mr. Jack Bear here with us tonight from the Cullasaja Fire Department. He is going to be requesting the Board of Commissioners to for consideration on a loan for a fire truck. Could we add him to?
Let's do it with Joe.
With new bit with.
Warren. Let's do it with
Go with
Warren.
Warren?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make that 10B1.
10B1.
Yes, 10B1 under, or no, 11B1. 11B1 under new business. And I apologize.
No, that's good. Jack had mentioned it, and I just told him to hang around when we get to it. All right?
Okay, back on track. The Highlands Middle School renovation project update and next steps. Emily, if you want to hit the highlights of that.
Derek, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
Okay, we're moving on the agenda to the Highlands Middle School renovation project update. That was, if you want to go over the highlights of that, kind of.
Sure. So back at the end of May, we issued for bidding the renovations to the Highlands Middle School project to contractors for bidding. And that scope includes replacement of HVAC equipment, the roof on the middle school building at Highlands, window replacement, and flooring replacement inside of the middle school building. And those bids came back in late May. We had to rebid the project. We had one bidder the first go around, and so we had to re-advertise the project and rebid a week later. And when we did that, we ended up with one bidder on the second round, which was the same bidder that showed up on the first round of the project. So the bid that was submitted was for a total of $1,184,195. That is in excess of the budget amount, which is funded by the DPI repair and renovation grant. That total amount that I think is available is $634,300. We did a good bit of work with the contractor in the last couple of months to really understand how those 4 identified scope items made up the cost that we saw on bid day, and worked with the liaison committee to sort of review a couple of different scenarios for potentially funding portions of the project versus the entire project, and how the impact of a future larger project to include pre-K expansion on that campus might impact this scope of work. And I think the outcome of those conversations with the school board and with the contractor is that the school board feels pretty strongly that the entire scope of this project is urgent. Those items that are on that scope of work are in urgent need of repair, and that the project should move forward. And I think that the conversation today is in consideration of the obvious shortfall between the available budget and the final bid amount that we received at the end of May.
Thank you. Gentlemen, liaison.
Just to point out, like Emily mentioned, so the bid was $1,184,195. We have received approval for $634,300 from the Repair and Renovation Fund. So the shortfall is $549,895. So of course, if you wanted to fund the whole project move forward, I would recommend taking that out of fund balance. So.
And this is the project that supposedly had the money for, or the Board of Education had the money for?
Well, it's the Repair and Renovation Fund money that we applied for, the $634,300.
And we thought we'd get the full money.
Well, I guess the 634.3 was
Yeah.
based on maybe some previous estimates.
But the way that money comes in, is it quarterly?
It's quarterly.
And it's, I think in the first year, which would have been FY '22, I think we were gonna get 500, and I think
We didn't get that much.
we didn't get that
I got it
much.
right here. Yeah, right now, sitting in there, we have a 750, 169.55, that includes the 634.3. So the only extra is 115, 869.55. The first year, we got about 230,000. The second year, we've gotten $499,025, and then this year, we've only received $70,768. So it posts every quarter. This one has the lottery funds rolled in. But of course, it's been months ago. It was, I think back in, we made a joint application that required the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. That was back in, I have it here somewhere. It's in the papers. That was back in October of '22. That's how long this thing's been spinning its wheels. So back in October of '22, we submitted a joint application requesting the funds. So.
And, okay, thank you.
What was that, 549?
549, 895. 549, 895.
And that's the difference.
That's the difference between the bid and the repair and renovation funds that we have been approved for.
And we just went through a grueling budget process, a very public one, and here we are a month later needing $500,000.
Let me share with you my position on this, and I feel like I always try to take what I do on this board into my private business and do what I would do here as I would there. This is a very it's a very important fix, and it's a very needed fix in Highlands. It's roof, windows, really it's nothing luxurious. The issue I have as I relate to my business, I'm in the crane business. We do a fair amount of contracting, so I'm familiar with the bids. But if I'm looking to purchase a crane and market value is $500,000, I look over the market and I find one crane for $1 million. Well, just because I can't find one on the market doesn't mean I go and spend $1 million to buy the crane. That's essentially what happened here. We budgeted, we expected, and we planned on $600,000. It was a wise place to use the DPI repair and renovation funds, and all of a sudden we had one bid, came in at 1.2. We re-advertised, we had the same bid. So I feel like at this point in time, just because it's the only bid we have, if we were to re-advertise, maybe we can, I spoke in the last liaison committee meeting, maybe we try to reach out to more contractors, but we're having a hard time finding contractors. But to me, it's not worth jumping on this just because that's the only bid we received. It's $600,000+. So at this point in time, I think we just need to back up and rebid. I'm not saying it's not needed, but at this point in time, I just don't feel like because it's the only bid we got, we have to go with it. So it's my personal position.
Josh, anybody else?
Is there a time frame? Go ahead.
Sorry, if I could just add to that, if that's your wish, you would need to make, since this was formally bid, you would need to make a motion to reject the bid that was received on May 25th, 2023. And then, because that way it's a formal bid, y'all have to accept the bids, but you also have to reject, and you have to state the reason for rejection, correct?
Well, that's just my position. I'd like,
So I'm just throwing that out there, like if that moves forward, if you want, if you're wanting to reject this bid and try to rebid, you just have to make that motion to reject the bid received on May 25th due to, I guess, exceeding our allowable budget.
What kind of time frame, when you reject the bid, what if it comes back a singleton again, a bid?
well, if we intend to go through with other projects in Highlands, maybe we lump it together. That's part of the problem, and to the point, and Tracy and Todd and I, at our liaison meeting, we talked about this, and I remember our joint meeting, we talked about, I remember Dr. Baldwin talking about this and why this being a wise place to use the repair and renovation funds. Right now, we're still in, I guess, the repercussions of COVID, and I'm afraid of where our economy's headed. There'll be more bids.
There will be.
Well, that's my personal position in the future. Who knows to what point in time, and who knows how much time we really have, but.
Okay, that goes back to my question. If we reject the bid, is this a 30-day or a 60-day? What is the waiting period for us to know if we've got more than one bid the next time?
Till we advertise at our discretion, I assume.
Yeah, I guess we would, since so much time has lapsed since we opened this bid, and if we're now considering rejecting it, we'd have to, go through all the same, according to the general statutes, run the advertisements, etc. Don't hold me to this, but I think is it 2 weeks, Emily? There's at least 2 weeks that maybe has to run between the time you advertise and open bids. I don't have that statute in front of me.
Yeah, I think the bid advertisement has to be at least 7 days before the bid date.
So we usually allow time in there for like a pre-bid conference to allow contractors to
Yeah.
come to the site, So
Well, and because we're not in a rebid situation, and we're hoping to, you would be hoping to attract contractors that are not yet familiar with the project, we would definitely want to have a long enough bid period to where we could have a pre-bid conference and, go through a round of questions and things from contractors. Typically, that's about a month-long process from when we issue the drawings to contractors to when we receive bids. That's usually about a month.
So October, we could review this again. If it takes 30 days through the September process, then we could review it again in October at our board meeting.
And I would like to add to Todd and the school board, look, it's not easy. There's not people jumping out of the water to bid on this thing, so I sympathize there. I guess my burden is I just don't feel like it's an equitable exchange for the funds we're providing. That's the heartburn I have. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's not needed by any means. It's needed.
Right.
I just feel like just because a bid came in twice, I think it's my job in this position to make sure it's money well spent, and that's all I'm saying.
So you would be in opposition for us to review this again? And
No, I'd like to
bids
review
in
it
October?
again. I think we need to. I think that's the right call, personally. And I know Emily's got the contractor, willing to extend their date, but personally, the higher the funds, the more the architect makes. The architect, I'm sure they'd be willing to wait 6 months right now. The bid came in twice, so at the end of the day, it is what it is, but again, it's an equitable transition of cost of service and goods. That's my reservation.
Anything else, gentlemen? So we'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's just a huge miss with this school project. I've actually been participating in about 3 of these bids, and they seem to come in higher than what we're voting on. This one's almost double. And in the private sector, I can't be off that much. So how do we correct this? And I'm just going to change the subject. We were told that a track was $300-some thousand all included, and then now we're looking at $1 million for this track. The taxpayers of this county deserve oversight for this, just like Commissioner Young said. We just can't jump on it.
Yeah, I don't sense an appetite to come up with $550,000 out of fund balance when we've got other projects in the school system we'd like to do. So I guess the next step is to entertain a motion to reject the bid.
Can I offer up a bit of a suggestion or food for thought? If there is some traction on moving forward with this larger project at Highlands to include pre-K, I think rather than rebidding this scope of work by itself, I think maybe a recommendation from our end would be to incorporate it into a larger project. I think that might change the attractiveness of the project for contractors and could generate some more interest than you might see if we just try to rebid what we've already rebid, especially this close to when we bid it the first time. I don't know that the market has changed significantly enough to create a different sort of bid environment for this particular project, but if we were to sort of pause on this scope of work and incorporate it into the larger scale pre-K project, I think we might get a different outcome than we would get if we just rebid this standalone again in a couple of months.
Okay. All right.
So, do we rebid, or are we?
I don't think there's any time frame on that, or I think the first thing is to reject the current bid if we're not, I'm not voting to come up with $550,000.
Right after that's rejected, though, do you want us to re-advertise, or?
Well, she's suggesting what you see, what to take a temperature in a couple of 3 months on the whole project, pre-K and everything, and you know, I don't think we just.
Let me reach out to Todd. Todd, is there like imminent issues where we need to rebid right away? Do we have 6 months? Do we have time? I mean,
It's hard to tell on mechanical stuff when HVAC's going to give up the ghost.
But right now it's functioning.
When a roof leaks and when a window comes out, it's not holding into the frame anymore, and it drops out. I don't know. I don't want to make a guess on that, because then as soon as I say we're good for another 6 months, it falls out next week. And then I don't know.
How do we wait till the windows start falling out to put things out for bid? That's not just on this particular project. We had this on middle school, you know, but windows rotted out before we end up. I mean, did you get an answer? I mean, you good?
I feel like we just need to let it cool off. Maybe we get re-advertise in October, as Mr. Shields says, and again, it's a worthy project. I mean, it's nothing luxurious. It's windows and a roof. And,
We've got some aging buildings in the school system, not just Highlands, but
I think my biggest heartburn is the cost. I mean, I think if it had been 10, 15, 20%, it's 100%. It's double. That's the issue I have.
all right. We'll have a motion to proceed.
I'll make a motion to reject bids.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Would you mind, sorry.
Pardon?
I'm just reading the statute. Proposals may be rejected for any reason determined by the board or governing body. Would you just mind kind of amending your motion for the
Amend
reason
my
for
motion.
rejection?
My reason for rejecting is the cost.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Emily.
Now, will we bring, we're going to incorporate into a larger project. When do we see that piece?
That was the architect's recommendation. I don't know. We've wrestled the pre-K thing for a year. And we're still considering a high school and Macon middle school track and some other pretty expensive. I don't think there's a time frame on it. Whenever you guys bring it up, the liaison, you two are the liaisons, when you'll bring it up for further discussion, or?
I think when she talked about the incorporating it together, I think her idea is that the larger the project, you may have more people bidding.
Oh, absolutely.
And we haven't taken that opportunity to see if that's true or false. And I'm like you, I believe it would cause more people to come in and bid. But then I think we have to decide then if you want to single this one out or into incorporate with the pre-K.
I think that warrants some discussion among the board members. And
Emily, how far are you guys on the phase 2 and phase 3 of the Highland School expansion?
I think we are targeting a completion around the end of this calendar year.
Okay, so that
to be ready to bid that project.
We can't have any discussions if we're going to incorporate the entire project until phase 2 and phase 3 of design is complete. So that will answer.
Yeah. So we'll bring it back up to Are they gonna go and build the project, schematic? Are they gonna put that project down where we can look at it?
We approved phase 2 and phase 3 of the Highland School expansion in the budget.
Of the architectural.
Architect fees. Right, the architect fees.
So when they get
Not
that-
the actual construction.
That's correct, yeah.
So we can look at the architectural piece when we put the money in there for that, to see what the integrated part looks like. I think
So
that's
that'll settle our
concept.
time frame as to
Okay.
when we can revisit this.
Okay.
So we'll revisit towards the end of the year?
And I think, Emily, I'm sorry, guys, if, there's sounds like the possibility of blending these two projects together. We had talked, I think, before about the possibility of, building out the Highlands Middle School. It's actually a building addition, correct, Emily? That's the biggest chunk of that cost up there, right? Wasn't it
Yeah.
an addition of a wing up there? And then also some remodeling classrooms for pre-K. We talked about doing as alternates, just for grant purposes, the HVAC, the windows, the
Yeah.
flooring, and the roof. Because for these grant monies, I have to have specific accounting of how we spend it. So we had talked about that months ago, do we bid them separately, do we bid them together, and how can we accomplish it? So that may be a way, if they're gonna be ready the end of this calendar year, they could put it out to bid with the Highlands Middle School wing pre-K stuff as the main bid, and then have alternates for the windows, HVAC, flooring, for the middle school. So that's a possibility you guys could consider as well.
I'd like to add one more thing to this. Maybe it's a comment. Maybe it's to John's point. How did we get so out of balance? I think the school board and liaison committee, I think there's a constant search for grant funds, and we found this bucket of money, and we saw the need in Highlands. This has been on the capital outlay request for a period of years. So this was a kind of an easy plug and play on a very, very highly functional part of the property. The problem is, as the cost started escalating, there's more strings connected to the money, and that's where this thing kind of got off course, in my opinion. So I just want to prepare the board that this has been in their capital outlay plan for years, a couple of years, and we just were trying to be creative with this grant. And the problem is, as the funds, or the bids started coming in higher, the strings started more or less pushing us to find larger contractors that weren't local. And I think that's the issue, because where the money comes from, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of strengthening the qualifications that we can't use our local subs here. So there's going to come a point in time where this has to happen, and maybe we redirect with the school, we have to use local funds for this, and we use this repair renovation funds on a different project that kind of stays in that $600,000 allocation. I just want to make sure it's not like, again, we're not going, splurging on this. This is a needed item that we were trying to get creative with. I think the cost just got out of hand, and all the strings that come with the federal funds overqualified our local contractors. So just want to make sure if Todd, if you come to us and say the HVAC system failed, I would sympathize. I'm not saying it's nothing needed, okay?
Anything else, Jim?
That's all.
No?
Thank you, Ms. Emily.
All right, well, thank you. I'll hop off.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just hang that phone up.
That is. My first Zoom meeting. Okay, Mr. Manager, a letter from Macon, Jackson, and Swain County managers concerning review of the Fontana Regional Library Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you'll recall, before we started into the budget process, we were discussing the Fontana Regional Library Agreement, and the board had requested that myself meet with the county managers for Macon and Jackson counties, who are also parties to this agreement, to begin discussions on potential revisions to the Fontana Regional Library Agreement. The agreement that we are currently under requires a review every 10 years. That agreement was entered into. This is the first 10-year agreement. This is the first 10-year review of that agreement since that agreement went into effect. So with that being said, again, just as I am presenting this to this board today, the county manager for Jackson County is presenting this to the Jackson County Board today, and the Swain County manager is presenting this to the Swain County Board today to get feedback from the board, because again, this was we felt like this was the starting point, the jumping off point for us to give the board something so the board could begin discussing this issue. Each of these boards could begin discussing this. So what we found in this review, as we've heard here tonight and we've heard throughout the meetings, for the past 75 years, we have collaborated with as 3 counties and the Fontana Regional Library System. And we found that, this has provided citizens throughout the region with convenient access to informational and educational resources, as the letter says. And as far as the structure goes, having that coordination between counties allows for the more efficient purchase of certain services. It's with anything. It gives you buying power being part of this regional system. So we did feel that as far as benefits of our region, benefits to the taxpayers within each of the counties, that the regional system and the benefits that provided from an economic standpoint were certainly the way to go to provide this library service. So the system overall, we felt, has worked well during the time that these counties have been a part of it. We did, in reviewing the agreement, and our county attorney was there as well, with me and the other managers, we did feel, again, while the agreement overall and the structure is great, we did feel that one change was needed. Currently, the Macon County Board of Commissioners and the library system that runs in Macon County, the $1.1 million a year that we provide to run this system, we see it runs well. You go into the library is a beautiful building. I would go as far as to say that our public library here in Macon County is one of the nicest facilities that we have. So we've taken great pride, worked well here with our local library board and our local library staff to give, I feel like, what is a great experience there. So with that being said, the commissioners has direct appointment authority over this local board. However, so the commissioners as the fiduciary, as the financial partner in this arrangement, the boards of commissioners for each county have local board appointment, but there is no direct connection currently from the fiscal agent, from the boards of commissioners to the policy setting agent for the organization. And as we got into these discussions and we've heard different types of books and literature and access to books and literature and where's the best places to put them, what are the appropriate steps needed, I think as all these things are discussed, the managers, we came to the agreement of, the structure's there and there are boards, and the Fontana Regional Policy Board is set up to deal with that. They're a policy-making body. And currently, the way we're set up, the counties are not in the policy-making business for the Regional Library Board. That is the Regional Library Board. But as the funder of the Library Board, as a funder of Fontana Regional Library, we did feel it was very important for the fiscal agent to have a direct connection to the policy-setting agent. That way, everybody's, if you will, singing off the same sheet of music. And again, this is what we've seen it here locally. We know how it works with our local library board. And that, again, that is direct appointment from the Board of County Commissioners. And we just want that same level of communication, that same level of connection with the policy setting board. And that is essentially the only change that we would be recommending, because then, just as the local board through the appointment process is structured to be a reflection of the governing body, we feel like that the policy setting board that is made up of 3 members from each county should be that same reflection of the governing body. And there again, we figured that from the structural standpoint, that the policy issues like policy issues with Fontana Regional Library need to be addressed by that board. So that's what we are recommending, and again, it is a starting point, and it is being presented to each board today, actually, so for consideration and feedback. But that's just, Mr. Attorney, is that fair enough? Does that, have we?
I think you nailed it.
Did we nail it? Good. So,
regional review under.
And there's one thing to note. There's one more thing I want to add. As you'll notice here, this, in the event that all 3 county boards in Fontana Regional Library agree with the proposed change to the appointment process, the revision will be made. As the agreement is currently written, the Fontana Regional Library Board is a party to the agreement, and it is contemplated that changes under this current structure, any changes discussed, they need to be sitting at the table and discuss the changes as well. So that is important to note.
So we would then draft that regional agreement for consideration for adoption. It's going to take a little bit more work in some of the other counties where they have other appointments that are made within their own library bylaws. For example, I think in Jackson County, the town of Sylva may have a seat at that table on their Jackson County board that's an automatic. So how they have to adjust their individual bylaws as a result of this will dictate what each county has to do in conformity with that new proposed agreement.
And I think that's a good point, and I think that was another thing that we discussed. You know, there's intricacies in each of these counties' local agreement between the county commissioners and local library boards. Whereas what we wanted, again, was just to be, rather than get in to the operations and the nuances of the library operation system, which we are not in currently, we wanted to make it to where we just had that connection with that regional library board, that direct appointment authority, and then there again, that way you don't mess with any of the local agreements, but you do streamline each board of commissioners' ability to connect with that policy setting body.
I want to share a couple of things real quick. You know, so many of the issues that are coming up to me at this point are just pretty much being blown consistently out of context, and largely with the media as well, you know, with everything, you know, that's being discussed here. Some of the issues that are coming up are very basic issues. Now, and I hear what you guys, you know, have to say during the public comment, and I you know, appreciate you guys coming up and sharing that. But we have to understand something. This is not just one side or another. It's just like you said, it serves the whole county. So we're not looking at just one side of this, okay? There's a MOU that we've been with the Fontana Regional Library System for 10 years. When I brought up what was in the MOU, many people were not even aware of what was in that contract. So even as I brought it up to the board, many of the board members weren't even aware of some of the things that were in that contract, which some of those things do not benefit our county. So if there are things that don't benefit the county, there's no reason to go into another 10-year agreement with something that's actually not beneficial to the people in the county, okay? Everything that we're trying to do with this is actually trying to make everything better. We're not trying to make anything worse, and we're not trying to take away from anyone. You know, the issues that I've personally brought up have to do with protecting kids. What I have a hard time understanding is why is that such a point of contention to want to protect kids against pornographic materials? To me, that's beyond me to try to even understand why is that a point of contention. There was a time where that was an easy fix.
Have you
But
read
right
the
now, it's no
materials
longer
that are
that.
accused of being pornographic?
Say again?
Comment is over. Have you read the materials that are accused of being pornographic?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. You found
I was the first one to bring up one of the books, and as a matter of fact, when I brought it up, before I brought it up, there was one particular suggestion made about it, but once I brought it up and I showed the images in the book, everything changed from that point. And I'm talking about even with Ms. Fritz Morris on that particular point, okay? And when I held the book up to her, she said, well, I read this book before and I didn't see any of that in the book, which was kind of insane to me. And she said, it must be another edition. There's only one edition to that book. You know, and I personally, I work with kids. There's no way that you can poison the mind of a child and call it okay. And that's my only point in that. It has nothing to do with whether or not somebody, you know, an adult sexual preference, you know, or any of that. I'm talking about children and protecting children. And that's the only point. So every time that gets blown out of proportion and goes into another area, to me, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Everything that's being done right now with the library, please understand this publicly. It's for the benefit and the betterment of everyone. It's not just for a particular group. And like I said, I stand behind my word of what I'm speaking concerning these kids. Again, I work with kids. I have parents who are consistently right behind me in understanding that they don't want their kids having that access to these books either, right? And the suggestion is really simple. If there's books with materials that are not good for kids, we never said anything about just removing the books completely from the library. Just put it in a place where adults access it and the kids don't access it. That was rejected flat out. That does become a point of contention, because now the question on my mind is, well, what's the issue here with trying to protect these kids? I don't understand in any possible way why that's a point of contention. So everything that's being done with the library, please understand, this is for the betterment of everyone. It's not just for a particular group, okay? I've heard both sides of this, and I get it, okay? But I am looking for the betterment for everyone. It's not just one particular group.
The book's not even in the library.
Say again?
The book is not even in the library.
I'm not talking about that book. There's 15 books that I went through myself in that library, in our library in Macon County.
The one that was
15.
the one that was brought up at the meeting was not in the library. The one that was held up as an example of how terrible things are is not even in the library.
It's in the Fontana system.
Okay, so
No, it's not. It's in the Cardinal. It's in the Cardinal system.
Okay, good deal. Anything else, gentlemen? It's under review, regionally. Right, next item. Joe Allen. And he's coming with two things. Could we do Jack Beard first?
Jack Beard would be with Warren, I think.
Joe, you're doing one thing. Let's get it over with.
Let's get it over with. Thank you guys for fitting us into the agenda tonight. I'm sure the Padera group appreciates it too. They're wanting their money back. May 10th, 2022, Macon County entered into a bond agreement with the Padera group in the amount of $110,361. This bond was being held for the installation of a retaining wall and some fill material to decrease the road grade so it would meet the subdivision standards. On July 24th, Mike Wadsworth with the Padera Group requested that bond be released and provided an engineering design professional inspection form for the retaining wall. I think you guys got that in your packet, and also some pictures where I went and took some pictures on the side. It is done. The road's pretty much flat. So I recommend that we release to the Padera Group their bond.
Is that on the side of the road when you go on Wildcat?
Yeah, you don't even have to go in the gate.
What was the 10% slope at?
Well, it was when they cut that retaining wall and flattened it out. It was over 10. According to the surveyor, it was over 10 to begin with. They had it surveyed out, and it was over 10% to begin with. The road in there was.
All right, everything's good with you on it?
Everything's good with me.
So we're entertaining a motion to refund the bond. True?
We'll release the bond. It's not cash. This is actually a bond.
It's actually a bond.
Yes.
Just to
Release.
the bond.
Yes.
I make a motion at your recommendation to release the bond.
Second.
Further discussion? Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Let the record reflect these minutes. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, under new business, 11A, discussion regarding the receipt of grant funding and consideration of the addition of positions for housing. Housing Director John Fay. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Well, first off, mea culpa, apologies for the spreadsheet that I had sent to you all and then conveniently was resent at my request. I have copies of the corrected version. I was, in the planning of this thing, I had about maybe 5 or 6 different spreadsheets, and when I went to put these out for your use, I selected the wrong one on 2 different occasions. So again, mea culpa. If you'd like, I can give you all that.
We've got it here somewhere.
Yeah, and those will be the incorrect
okay.
one. This is the correct.
Oh, it's the
Yes,
colored.
sir.
Oh, yeah, these are black
Yeah,
and white. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Basically, what we have is that the state, or actually the federal government through the state, has given the county is going to receive 800 and let's see here. Let's get it straight. It's going to receive $840-some thousand of weatherization funds, and what I did was, along with that comes the production of units. Right as we've been operating, it's been difficult to keep up with the units that we have to do. Considering that we operate 11 programs, different programs, each one with different guidelines and rules, they can be blended together. We're probably, from my experience throughout the state, we're probably the best at blending funds. I've been asked to speak on that several times about how you can work these programs together, get the biggest bang for the buck for Maconians, and so it's pretty much of a complex task. So what I've done is I did some analysis. You'll see on the one sheet it shows a comparison of units. This particular sheet here, where I did a comparison of units and crew composition. And you'll see it worked out that basically we should have 7.08. If you can find 0.08 of a crew member, we're in pretty good shape. What we're asking for is a total crew of 6. The 22, 23, 23, 24 budget comparison also worked out to 7.08 crew members in order to be able to have the capacity to do these jobs. But because we're doing so many jobs and we blend them together, we can definitely get by with 6 total crew of 6, which would be, as you can see on the housing department structure sheet, we're talking about adding 3, excuse me, adding a administrative person and adding some actual crew members, and in this case it'd be 2 auditors, and they would be team leaders. So the breakdown of that is back to the sheets that I just handed to you, and excuse me, you can see where our funds come from. You can see the breakdown on salary and benefits for these individuals, and basically how that reflects on the budget. One thing of interest here, and I did the side note on this form, is Duke weatherization. Every job that we do with state weatherization funds, we get on an average about $3,000 a unit. So if you take that we're going to actually be doing 40 units with weatherization is what we're contracted for. It's a healthy chunk of change, $120,000. That's not reflected in this at all. You know, so that's that's one of the things that the housing department has had the luxury of, is basically programs like Duke and like Dogwood, their assistance. Duke Helping Homes is another one. We get an MOU with them on a regular basis, usually $30,000 each. And those funds blend in with everything that we do. Dogwood gives us funding to support ESFR, which is a rehab program, and urgent repair programs, which we just received our contract for this cycle. All in all, in order to be able to have the capacity to do these units, these are the personnel that we would need to do that. Where we stand right now is we'll need 2 auditors, which would be team leaders. We have one person on board that is an auditor, and we don't know if he'll be interested in the position or not. But if not, then we'll have to go to somebody else. The positions and qualifications are required by the state weatherization folks. So, and also not included in this is the BIL money, the bipartisan infrastructure law. That is not included in this, and that should be coming forward around September or so. And that will be additional use. None of this, I guess, of particular interest to you all. The only time county funds are involved here is what's already been budgeted for the administrative position. And so when we add this administrative person, basically you can see down at the bottom where out of the $51,793 that's in the budget for admin, we would use $38,443 of that money that's already budgeted. The reason why that's there is that all along, well, for the 18 years I've been doing this, we pay for the administration person with grant funding first. We exhaust grant funds as much as we can for the administrative position and only use those funds, the county funds, when those grant funds are exhausted, the administration portion. So that's pretty much it.
So what's the total number of employees you're looking at?
Okay, there would be, well, there you go, total number.
Yeah, this year.
Oh, on this spreadsheet, yeah.
You got staff there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not including myself. I'm sorry, 8, because I did not add the admin person.
It's how many?
8, be 8 people total.
So currently you have 6 employee staff?
Yeah, we have.
Currently?
Yeah, we have 3 field personnel, 1 program coordinator, and we have a administrative assistant.
Okay. And then, and I'll just ask this, you said that the federal government has handed down the state $840-some thousand. Is that
Right.
permanent or is that a one-time?
It's basically the weatherization budget has been here every year since I've been doing it. 18 years with the county and 3 years previously with Macon Program for Progress. That program's been in existence for a long time. Now, to this extent, no. This time this budget is hefty, but they're doing this in conjunction with the BIL, so that basically I've talked to the lady that's going to be handing out, or she'll be actually the head, Vicki Higdon. She's with Buncombe County's nonprofit. And she's going to be the regional person that we go to for BIL funds. And so I've talked to her and I've asked her, I said, listen, we got this. I had a concern. This is this year. What happens to us next year? And we had a fairly lengthy conversation, and she pretty much assured me that we were going to get our fair portion out of this and we'd be able to hang on to what we got. So that's depending on how that goes, anywhere from 3 to 5 years. It's just hard to say right now. The state was very late in applying for the BIL funds, very late. And that was their their doings. And so it put us a little bit behind.
So if those funds are not available in the future, then that falls back on the local taxpayers to
Okay.
pay these employees.
This is something that also was taken into consideration. One of the things is that we have a form, probably worth the paper it's written on, the county attorney could address that, but that they understand that these positions are contingent upon grant funds being available. They're told, we have told everybody that we've hired since I've been here that that's a condition. We're actually going to have it in writing now that's there. The other issue that could come up is workman's comp. And basically, you've got $350 a week for 12 weeks. You're running around $14,000 if all of those people went. But that would be the extent of that.
What do you mean if all the people went?
Well, in other words, if grant funds ran out and we had to cut back people, and say we had to cut back to the crew that we were before, okay, then we could end up having to pay workman's comp, or not, I'm sorry, workman's comp, thank you, unemployment insurance for those particular persons, right? And that's something that I did take into consideration. But it's also possible that out of these other funds that we have, that we could even possibly cover that with some of these other funds, like with Dogwood and Duke and whatnot.
John, would you also, for the people that don't really know what you and your department, what you guys really do, can you give me a 15-second review on, hit the hot spots? What do you guys do?
Okay, we do repairs and modifications to persons' homes, typically elderly, disabled, and large families. We weatherize the homes, and so far to date, we run about saving 30% of a person's energy bill when we weatherize a home. These are grant programs. We also do a essential single-family rehab program in which people can apply to us and they get a no-interest loan to where we can go and spend up to $40,000 on their house on repairing.
How much is this going to cost the county to receive the grant funds and to hire the positions that come with the grants?
Nothing. You're already paying my salary and have funds in there for an administrative position, and that was there when we started out, and it still really needs to stay in place in case there's some kind of problem that comes up. We have a bounce back to where we can sit back and reset and see which direction we want to go.
All right, gentlemen. That's a big lift, having 7 employees.
Well, we had 4. We had 4. We'll have 8 total.
John, does that say on your comparison handout, if I'm looking at that, the units, the HARP, LIHEAP, and DOE?
Right.
You're basically saying that at these new levels, in 22 and 23, you're going from 29 units in 22, 23, but with this additional staff, your crew, you can do 66 units in 23, 24. Is that what that means?
Pretty much, except you can't include the HARP units. If you'll notice, I did the gray out on the HARP totals for the next. The reason for that is the HARP is mainly what we do with heating and air, and so we subcontract that out, and that's really for the equipment, so the install.
You're increasing from 17 to 41.
Right.
Units.
Basically, yeah.
So that is a substantial.
Yeah, it's a chunk.
Increase in productivity, I guess.
Right, and like I say, it says 7.8, but with 2 3-man crews and the use of an auditor, we can be more productive than a 7th person would be wasted. We could afford the salary on it, but it would be wasted. It's not necessary.
So the benefit package, who pays the benefit package?
That all comes out of the grant.
So the county has zero?
Zero. $1,104,000 this year have come in, and you all have paid my salary and budgeted for an administrative position, and that's it.
I'm still trying to figure out who the .08 employee is.
I've been looking for him, but I haven't found it. No, it's that. I'm not really a real numbers person, as Lori can tell you. Thanks, she gave me a great deal of help on this, as did Tammy. So.
All right, gentlemen. For the presentation, what's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman, I, not the biggest fan of large government expansion, but the benefit this brings to Macon County is substantial. So, under the impression that these funds come with the understanding that if the funds run out, the position runs out. I want to make sure that's in writing.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we add the 4 positions as requested by the Housing Director.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 3, all opposed, signify by like sign. 3-2. Thank you, Mr. Fay.
Thank you.
All right. Tell you what, we've been here 2 hours. Give me just a minute to review this. Let's take a 5-minute break, gentlemen.
5 minutes later.
Go downstairs, Chris, have a baby.
All righty, we'll. All right, we'll go back into order. Continue on the agenda, new business under 11B. Discussion regarding contracts for volunteer fire departments. Emergency Management Director Warren Kay. And I'll ask you, since Joe wouldn't answer, you want to do Jack first?
Absolutely.
Come on, Jack.
I'm not like it, Jack. Go ahead.
Well, you're part of this. He's handed me a document.
Right here.
Jack's with the chairman of the board of the Cullasaja Fire Department, right?
Yes, sir. I am.
And he's called me requesting they're wanting to buy a truck. They have community consensus to do that, or board consensus. And I know that at some level we have to authorize or we have to issue a statement saying they're good financial standing with the county. Where's Lori?
Per your contract, which is something we're going to talk about, there is a clause in there if they do a purchase that's outside their normal budget process, they're supposed to come after approval from you all. And then a lot of those financial institutions will ask for some financial information from us about what they collect. And typically they'll ask, are they in good standing at this point, or do you expect them to continue to receive that funding as far as you know at this point? So that's typically what this process is.
All right. Lori, did you catch part of that? We're talking about money.
Yeah, Mr. Baird gave me the letter while we were on break, so yeah, I'm used to this. I've done it before. So.
And it needs to be on our letterhead, and
that one, I've got a different one.
Yeah, this is for the finance. They want
I do the
3
finance
years
one.
last year. That one right there is for you, Paul, actually.
and that's on our letterhead. So who's going to put this on our letterhead? There.
Yeah.
And then he'll get me to sign it.
Yeah, you need to sign it on a letterhead, and that's what I will need. That's what will go back to the finance of the bank on it. They have several hoops that got me jumping through. It's a process that's always go through. I still have to have a public meeting on it also. It has been in the past 30 days, but they've cut that back. I only have to advertise for 7 days now. And I'll have another public meeting within Cullasaja Community Association.
You need this before that next meeting?
Actually, there's a place on it for the date. You can go ahead and fill it out, but I'll have to fill in the date after the meeting on that right there. And on the very top.
You good with that, Derek?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I wasn't too hard with it.
Wasn't too bad, was it?
See you again, Jack. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Ward?
Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you'll actually have some copies of some draft fire department contracts. We're not asking for any action tonight. This is for discussion only. This is a process that's been ongoing for a long time. I think I'm on draft number 12. You heard John talk about his stuff. I think this is draft number 12 for us. These have been sent out to the stakeholders already. Fire departments have had a couple of instances where they can review them, send us back comments. We tried to work through some issues with them, come up with a document that we could live with. The attorney and I have reviewed these, been over this a couple of times. Town of Franklin has actually, of course we submitted them all out to these agencies to review. They actually have already submitted theirs to their attorney, and they've actually already approved theirs and sent it back pending our approval. So I tell you that to basically say that this has been sent out to the stakeholders as well, so we can have their input back on how to draft this. So those folks have been involved in this process. There's two different copies in your agenda packet. They are the same contract, but the initial wording is different because you have 2 municipal departments and then you have 9 nonprofit departments. You have the Town of Highlands, Town of Franklin, and everybody else is a rural department, which is a nonprofit. So that's the only difference between those contracts. And very briefly, I will tell you the highlights of the differences. I actually tried to underline all those significant changes. On page 2, talks about fire protection services required. The original contract we had said they had to provide a protection class 9. We have changed that to a protection class 7, which puts a little bit more emphasis on making sure that they maintain their ratings, which gets the bang for the buck for the folks that are paying the bills. That's not going to be an issue for our departments, because every department we have has a rating of a class 6 or lower. So nobody's anywhere close to that 7 right now. So that's an obtainable goal. On page 3, on the rural department, and it may vary just slightly with the municipal one, under annual budget and financial record keeping. The conversation I just had about Jack coming asking for the approval to enter into an agreement to purchase a piece of fire apparatus, particularly because it extends beyond this fiscal year. That was part of the old contract. They had to come ask for basically your blessing of that. We didn't really have any guidance with that before, so we suggested that we put a dollar figure in there. So we changed that to say greater than $50,000. So for instance, if they want to buy a pickup truck and they can manage it within their budget, that's not necessarily something that really you need to have to worry about. Now, if it's anything over $50,000, that kind of gives us a dollar figure to shoot for, to say, okay, if it's over this, you need to come ask for that approval. Or if they will explain that in their annual budget process, if the fire department, when they present their budget to you in May or June or whenever we're discussing those, if they make that part of the budget discussion we have then when you approve that budget, that's your approval. So basically, if it's outside their normal budget and it's over $50,000, they need to come ask for you for that approval during the year. So that kind of clarifies that. Still under budget and financial record keeping, under E, when we talk about financial records, the very last sentence of that paragraph says the county may require the department to provide a certified financial audit conducted at the expense of the department for serious deficiencies or irregularities. We have had cases before when we've had to go through and look at records, and Lori and I have had to look at those records, and to be honest with you, I'm certainly not an audit person. Lori doesn't have the time to be an audit person for those records. So that gives us the option, if that comes up and there's some sort of serious irregularity, then we can ask them to have somebody pay for that and provide that record to us.
Is that a new amendment?
Yes, that is new. Under 6, again, under record, well, we're going to record keeping. On number 6, and forgive me if you find some typos in this. Like I said, I think we're on number 11 draft on one and 12 on the other, so please send me any of those that you see we need to fix. That whole paragraph in 6 is new because it talks about the extensive reliance on public funds. And this really applies more to your rural departments. We changed the wording a little on municipal departments. but it applies to rural so that their board meetings are ensured that they're open to the public and that there are minutes from those meetings. I'm not a nonprofit expert. Eric can probably tell you more about that than I can, but nonprofits tend to fall under different rules sometimes as far as public information and other things, as far as what some agencies are required to present to the public. So that gives a little bit of assurance to us that their board meetings are open and the public has a chance to either attend or see the minutes from those meetings. And number 7, in the event of a liquidation or dissolution of the department, and I'm not standing here telling you that we think we're going to have one of those, but we wanted to put some verbiage in there that, for lack of a better term, give us a little bit of a, I guess the legal verbiage is a clawback to the contract, but if a department were to dissolve, fail, whatever happened, we wanted to make sure as best as we could that the equipment that had been purchased in that district would be passed on to the successor department that comes in there. Now, there's some rules and regulations in North Carolina as far as nonprofits on how they're supposed to dissolve and how they get rid of their assets. So we can't overstep those, but we can put some verbiage in there to say, okay, we want you to get it to the folks that's going to do the business in your district. And Eric and I went through that process to try and make sure we got that as close as we could to give us some repercussion. And what we didn't want to happen, and we don't think it's going to happen, we didn't want the people of X fire department in that district paying for a vehicle, something happening, the contract dissolved, the department no longer exists, and that asset getting sold or something to a department in a different county or something somewhere, and that district have to start all over again. Because those assets are titled to the department. They're not titled to Macon County. They're titled to that department. So that's the clawback we put in there to try and have us a method to ensure that doesn't happen.
Does that mean we have to retitle vehicles?
If it's a nonprofit, as long as it went to another department, no. And right now, no. We still have nothing to do with the titles or anything now. But basically, if Department Y ended up being the successor to Department X, the verbiage in our contract says it needs to go to Department Y. And then we would have some legal repercussions, we hope, if that didn't happen, to make sure that did happen. Does that sound legal enough here?
It sounded really legal.
Okay, perfect. Very good. Under 14, we talk about operations deficiencies. And before, I have talked to you about operations deficiencies, but we really didn't define those. So we put a couple of definitions in there to basically say insufficient equipment, insufficient membership, or non-responses for calls for service could be considered an operational deficiency. So that's basically just defining what we had in the contract. I'm going page by page, so please bear with me. And I think that's the highlight of the changes. Like I said, most everything is underlined in there. We've given them chances to discuss it. We've sat down with them in meetings, the last 2 fire commission meetings. We've talked to them and said, okay, does anybody have anything to talk about? Anything else we need to bring up? So I think we're pretty close on a contract pending what your discussions are, what your thoughts are that they would be okay with, that we would be okay with. One thing I did miss in there, I'll go back to page 2. I just thought about it. Payment of taxes to the department. In the prior contract, there's no holdback on those funds. Everything we collect, everything that comes in, gets passed through finance out to those departments. We have talked about over the years joint purchases, trying to make better use of our money, trying to do something to, maybe we buy 10 of something instead of 1 of something and get a little cost savings and then divide that out amongst folks. Well, we didn't have a really good method of doing that with the old contract because all the money had to go to them. If we did that, we'd have to arrange the purchase. They'd have to give us money back. Then we'd have to make the purchase, and it would be extremely complicated, and Lori doesn't like complicated financial stuff. So we did put a clause in there that says, at the very end there, everything will be remitted to them, obviously unless they're in breach of contract, or if we aggregate some funds to do a joint purchase to benefit multiple departments through volume pricing. That's not to say that we're ready to do that. There's other hoops that we have to go through to do that, but that sentence allows us that opportunity in the future when we get ready for that. So
I appreciate that. I like that. Step in the right direction, and I don't anticipate using, like you said, some of these clauses. I don't ever anticipate them, but I think you're wise, very proactive.
One other thing I keep remembering stuff that I didn't bring up. It talks about membership in here. Our old contract was outdated. We were going by the old 2014 standards on State Fire Marshal's office with personnel that's required for a main department substation. Those have changed. They went down. They were 20 and 8. Now they're 15 and 4, which is what we've been inspecting by. But our contract still said the 20 and 8. So we revised the contract to say that the personnel requirements are whatever state of North Carolina says. So next time, if they drop that or raise that or whatever, next time our contract still matches the state.
And those fire protection classes, a lot of the departments have actually really improved, and that is huge savings for property owners on their insurance and stuff when those fire protection classes go down like they have, and that's so a lot of those departments are doing a great job with that information. Warren, also, how often are these contracts? Are they renewed every year, every 5 years? How?
They don't really have an expiration. They're basically an annual contract that just keeps renewing unless we stop. But there is an 8-month termination in there, so that if you were to decide that we need to stop the contract, there's an 8-month termination to it. So that gives them 8 months to not have a contract. Does that sound legal enough to? And that basically coincides with our inspection process. When we inspect, we'll say, okay, we'll give you 8 months to correct your deficiencies, and that all corresponds together. And it buys them a little bit of time. That way we can't just come in 1 month and say, okay, you're out of business next month. That gives us time to get something in place, which is not much, but that's kind of the figure we threw in there before.
Next step.
Y'all need to consider, give me any suggestions, and I'll be glad to come back in either September or October, whenever you prefer me to come back, and then we'll go through with either your approval or disapproval, and then submit it. Once you approve a revised contract, we'll submit it back to them for their final signatures back to us.
Yeah, we got one number. Where it at?
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Warren.
11C, use of county property by Friends of the Greenway, Frogs. Commissioner Gary Shields and Rita St. Clair.
We'll just introduce Rita. She's one of our leaders at the
Current
Frog
board
Sale.
members.
And we also have some other Frog board members and friends back there, and I'd like to say thank you for being here. One of the reasons we, as a liaison to Frogs, I feel like it's good to keep things updated. And we have 2 members here that have not heard what Frogs, what they do and how they work here with the accountability of the Greenway. And I asked Ms. St. Clair to come and share a few minutes with us to just update you. Thank you, Chairman Higgins.
All right, you got 30 seconds.
I may need 35. I have to say first, I see what happens as you go further down your agenda. The audience sort of disappears. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to update you on Friends of the Greenway, and also to include how and why we came to be an integral part of the community Greenway. I'm here tonight representing 268 current members, our board, as well as past board members, and hundreds who have been members during the time since Frogs officially began in 2002. It was the 1990s when a number of outdoor enthusiasts thought that a hiking path along the Little Tennessee River would be a positive addition to our community. And when Duke Energy, then Nantahala Power and Light, wanted to add their transmission lines along the river, the dream of a path became a real possibility. During those early years, Frog members believed that the Greenway would be something unique and something special to our community, and they were vested in making it a reality. These folks were enthusiastic, committed, and knowledgeable, and they set the tone for all continuing efforts on the Greenway. Although many community planning meetings took place during the previous 3 years, on May 31st of 2001, there was another planning group meeting. And one of the items brought to that group from then County Manager Sam Greenwood was the request to turn management of the Greenway over to a group calling themselves Friends of the Greenway. This group accepted that responsibility. A proposed agreement of mutual areas of responsibility and authority between the Friends of the Greenway and Macon County was presented to commissioners on March the 11th, 2002, along with the proposed ordinance for the Greenway. The Articles of Incorporation and bylaws were adopted by Friends of the Greenway in April of 2002. It was a busy year. And officers were identified with Hank Schuler as the first chair. They set a budget, established a website and logo, identified a mission statement, and began looking at the wetlands, the riverbanks, and the properties associated with the Greenway along a 6-mile stretch. Members were meeting with Mr. Greenwood regularly to discuss work already in progress, the status of the bridge plans, and reviewing sources of grant funding for continued additions to the Greenway, plus plans for the grand opening for Phase 1. There were many local citizens who were involved, but 3 women were primarily responsible for writing the grants that provided the funding to make the Greenway a reality. Barbara McRae, Hank Schuler, and Kathy Magaha. They and many others worked closely with Mr. Greenwood. They were working with millions in funding, most coming from the Clean Water Management Trust Fund and the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Funds. There were many details involved with every aspect of completing the Little Tennessee River Greenway. Citizen groups were responsible for the research and recommendations that then went to Mr. Greenwood. Some of those early committees are listed in your handout, but they included everything from identifying the 80 property owners that were adjacent to the Greenway, to researching the playground components, the shelters, the bathrooms, identifying landscaping and plantings that would be added to the Greenway. Because so much of the day-to-day development of the Greenway was falling on these committee members, incorporation was completed and they officially became Friends of the Greenway, Inc. in March of 2002. They did the background work for the ordinance regulating the Greenway that was adopted by commissioners on September the 9th of 2002. Frog members needed a location that was close to the Greenway to examine, make recommendations, and monitor every step as the Greenway was taking shape, and to begin stewardship as agreed to by the county commissioners. Sam Greenwood, agreeing that Frog needed to have a presence near the Greenway, offered the building at 573 East Main Street, and Frog agreed to that offer. It had been empty for several years and was purchased by the county from Duke using North Carolina Parks and Recreation funds on February the 3rd of 2003. Part of the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant that provided funding for Wesley's Playground, the Morris Trace Trail, the Suley Marsh Boardwalk, the airport loop, also included the funding for the renovation of what would become Frog Quarters. The county commissioners had approved the submission of the grant at their January meeting, January 6th of 2003, prior to purchasing the property and accepting the grant on August 4th of 2003. The Little Tennessee River Greenway Phase 2 project was awarded for the period July 1 of 2003 to November 30th of 2005. The renovation of the old Water Wheel Restaurant took place during 2004 and 2005. This was a grant-funded project So all the decisions made and recommendations for contracts and construction related to the renovation was done by Frog, but with sign-off by Sam Greenwood. Frog members contributed months of work to the renovation. Frog Quarters opened in September of 2005 as the visitor center for the Greenway. Then and now, Frog pays all the utilities associated with the building and offers free internet for all those who visit. We recently replaced the landscaping surrounding the building to showcase a welcoming natural environment. With the bridge sidewalk and the path under the town bridges coming out at Frog Quarters parking lot, it's a strategically placed county greenway visitor center. In this location, Frog Quarters became the human face of the Greenway. During the past 20-plus years, Friends of the Greenway has stayed true to the vision and mission that was crafted in January of 2003. The early vision of the Greenway as a community-developed riverfront park providing recreation, education, and enhancing community life in a natural setting remains strong today. Grounded on the shoulders of area environmental and conservation leaders and visionaries, the Greenway also serves as a catalyst for the protection and appreciation of our natural environment. Frog's mission was and is to be stewards for the Little Tennessee River Greenway. Today, our current Frog board members reflect that commitment to sustain and promote the Greenway. Frog Quarters sits squarely and strategically aside the Greenway with easy community access and perfect placement for what we do. Current members continue to be stewards of the Greenway, contributing skills and hundreds of volunteer hours to this very valuable county asset. Although times have changed, we remain committed to community involvement, sharing the history of the land, and enhancing the natural playground that we all enjoy. Achievement of many of these goals are directly linked to our presence on the Greenway through the location of Frog Quarters, our community home base. Our encouragement of community involvement remains active and vital, as we demonstrated by our coordination of the ordering of memorial tables and benches and the installation on behalf of donors. And we have a list of now a little over 120. Our support for youth community service projects by the Heights program with cleaning, painting, and plus the monitoring of over 50 bird nesting boxes on the Greenway. The Upward Bound program from Southwest Community College with painting and cleaning, and with the Franklin High School track team with Greenway cleanup. Bringing attention to the Greenway and sharing all that it offers. Frog is a member of the Chamber, Smoky Mountain Hosts, and the Streets of Franklin Heritage Association. Frog obtained the Greenway listing on the North Carolina Birding Trail, the National Recreation Trail, and as a nationally identified monarch butterfly way station in the K. Coryell Butterfly Garden. Frog has a booth at downtown events to talk about the Greenway and all that it offers. Frog hosts twice a year arts and crafts show on the drive around Frog Quarters and Mainspring Conservation Trust called Frog Fair. It's a fundraiser for Frog, but more importantly, it offers an outlet for area artists and craftsmen to sell their items. Local individuals and small groups of musicians volunteer to provide music all day, sharing their talent with all who attend. Depending on the year and the weather, we've counted 500 to 900 that have attended during each event. Frog is a member of the Little Free Library program and is listed on their national website. Our little library is on the porch at Frog Quarters. Our library only offers children's books and nature books for adults. Families at Big Bear Playground follow the trail under the bridges to take books on a regular basis. We encourage mothers and babies and young children who wanted to walk the Greenway but preferred not to walk alone to meet at Frog Quarters before walking the trail together. This is the Mommies and Me group who meet on a regular basis. We have worked with the Appalachian Animal Rescue Center in an adoption day at Frog Quarters and with Uptown Gallery and Macon County Art Association to sponsor some summer arts programs for children that's held at Big Bear Shelter. We offer Saturday midday music at Frog Quarters, providing a venue for area musicians to showcase their talent and provide entertainment for visitors and locals alike. Seasonally, we welcome AT hikers to Frog Quarters. As a Greenway Visitor Center, conveniently located and now easily accessible on the Greenway, we continue to be an information resource about the trail. If using GPS coordinates for the Greenway, the 573 East Main Street is the location that's given. We have become a mini chamber, offering information on area hiking, canoe, kayaking, restaurant possibilities, specific types of business requests, and responses to lots of other questions. The Greenway has its share of safety issues, and we work closely with both the Sheriff's Office and the Franklin Police Department when we receive calls from citizens. These could be anything from malfunctioning equipment of the playground, reports of vandalism, to unlawful activity. When Chief Devin Holland asked if we could assist with a better town police presence in East Franklin, we were glad to assist. They maintain one of their bicycles at Frog Quarters in order to more easily bike the trail. They also have access to the building to hold meetings or for officers to use the building when we're not there. We're pleased to contribute to the town's effort in the safety of the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses. Our participation in and initiation of heritage projects allows us to share the history of the land that surrounds the Greenway and Frog Quarters so that it's not forgotten. Frog contributed to the Nikwasi Initiative Comprehensive Plan for the East Franklin Cherokee Cultural Corridor. Based on our proximity to this project, we look forward to future involvement with this ambitious plan. We participated in the development of the Barbara McRae Cherokee Heritage Orchard Trail on the Greenway in both clearing and then helping them plant trees. With Barbara McRae's knowledge of history and Stan Polanski's knowledge of plant identification, Frog established the American Hop Project on the Greenway, sharing the story of Thomasina Seiler Sloan's growing of hops along the river and their use in bread making. We supported the Trail of Tears Association request to update the sign that had deteriorated near the Big Bear shelter. We asked the Cherokee Speakers Council to name the wetlands at Big Bear, and they provided the Cherokee name that means the marshes, literally meaning ground that holds water. We are proud to be able to add that signage soon. Enhancing the Greenway will always be important to Frogs. We designed and use a Little Tennessee River logo, and it is on each of the mile markers. Friends of the Greenway, along with County Greenway maintenance staff, updated those quarter-mile markers on 4.5 miles of the trail, and we're prepared to add more with the trail extension. We added maps, information, and educational signage to the Greenway. Frog received grant funds to build the first dog park at Big Bear Park. Our website, littletennessee.org, has been updated to better reflect all that the Greenway has to offer. And we actively use our Facebook page to promote our activities, but also the Greenway, and it regularly reaches around 10,000 a month. Frog and the Franklin Bird Club are now completing the Barbara McRae Memorial Viewing Platform, not just to recognize Barbara's contribution to both organizations, but to bring recognition to the natural wonders that can be appreciated in the wetlands. The final step is painting the treated wood, and this will be done by LBJ Job Corps students. We're currently working on signage that identifies some of the birds, insects, and plants that can be found there, and signage that describes the function of a wetlands and its importance next to the river. The Macon County Board of Commissioners entrusted Friends of the Greenway with the responsibility to protect, enhance, and sell the importance of this significant county asset to the community and visitors alike. For the past 21 years, that's exactly what we have continued to do. Our visibility and easy access to the Greenway have kept us on the scene to monitor, offer recommendations, and hear the public comments, both good and bad. With Frog Quarters as their base, volunteers have freely given their skills and time in support of this county asset. Many of us cannot imagine the Greenway without the input of Friends of the Greenway. For 18 years, a small building on the Greenway has housed and nurtured a community of environmental and conservation caregivers, creating a unique place and history in our community that translates to goodwill, benefiting the county on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank y'all for what you do.
Peter, I want to say thank you for the information you've given here. I want to say thank you for what you do for the East Franklin Arena. And Mr. Denny, you've been our former chairman. I want to say thank you for all your work and your wife and all the board members back there. We are a membership group, and the loyalty that you showed to the mission of the Frogs. Me personally, I've been with you, I think, for 8 years, going on to 12. I want to say thank you for what you meant to me, and I want to say thank you to this board here for supporting Frogs and what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Thanks for sticking around 2.5 hours.
All right, new business. 11D, discussion and approval of lease extension for USDA Macon Service Center. Finance Director Lori. Oh.
Yes, sir. Lori Carpenter. Yes, sir.
Who typed this up?
Be careful with it.
Lori Carpenter. Go
So
for
you
it.
have before you lease amendment number 8. I believe this lease has been in existence for about 21 years now. This amendment is the same terms as lease amendment number 7, which they pay $826.66 per month for use of some space in the facilities over at 189 Thomas Heights Road, where our cooperative extension and our soil and water offices are held. So this was received just a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, it was effective April 1st, so
we'll get around
we
to
just
it.
received it, from the federal government a couple of weeks ago. So this is the earliest we could bring it to you. So just need a motion to approve if you continue, if you guys want to continue to allow them to utilize our space.
Oh yeah, let's do it, gentlemen.
Well, Lori, I lost the amendment here, but I would like to make a motion we accept the lease extension between Macon County and the Department of Ag.
I second.
Any discussion? Glad you're there. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter. Changes to memorandum of understanding MOU between Macon County Board of Commissioners and the taxpayers, Cooperative Extension Services, NC State, and NC A&T State University. County Extension Director Christy Breeden Camp, and welcome.
Wow, that was a mouthful, huh?
Whew. Hope you don't have to repeat that much.
No. So I'm grateful to be here. You guys are awesome. I'm so grateful for you. But anyways, I'm here to present before you the memorandum of agreement that NC State tries to revisit so many years. So the last one that was signed was back in 2007, and other counties were in 2006. And the reason why NC State is doing this is because a lot of the memorandums were handwritten or verbal or very outdated. So they're trying to be consistent throughout the state for all the counties just to revisit this. For as new commissioners come and go and county managers come and go, we just wanted to get everyone on board. So that's kind of what this is. The main meat and bulk of this memorandum is the same as what Extension is already doing with Macon County government and with us, and so I can go into detail. I think each of you have this copy, and then also the summary of the changes. So a lot of the changes are just updating some of the verbiage or wording. The main guts of it, though, is, for example, in the memorandum it talks about the preamble is exactly the same as how it was before. There's 3 parts to this agreement. And the first part is just talking about what NC State Extension will do for Macon County. And so I can go into that, but part of it is is we are doing programs in 4 different areas. So you guys, I think, know Joe Deal, myself, Tamara, and Pam, and Debbie, and Kim Terrell. So we do family consumer science and agriculture, natural resources, horticulture, nursery, and food nutrition, and a load of other things. But anyways, in this first part, Extension provides travel monies for us to travel in the county. They provide a lot of training for us, both within the county and out of the county and other parts of the state, so that we can be the best that we can be to help the citizens here in Macon County. NC State also provides a lot of specialists that back us up. So I was counting over the past 3 months, I've had about 7 or 8 different specialists come to Macon County, visiting, since my area's in horticulture, visiting vineyards and nurseries and vegetable growers. So like Osage Farms, some of our wholesale boxwood growers. We have 3 vineyards, so we have plant pathologists and entomologists. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, in each of our program areas, we are able to bring in area agents and specialists to help the citizens. We also tap into quite a bit. There's labs that NC State has where we send samples off to, pictures off to, expertise that we just tap into all the time. So that's part of what Extension does for Macon County, really for all the counties. And then part of my role is to report to you guys. I give in the form of reports, I report to Derek. We also have an advisory leadership council that we report to also, and we're always seeking input from you guys, from our advisory council, from the public, from Derek, just so we can, again, be on target to the actual needs within Macon County. And so we try to do that in all of our program areas. The next part of the agreement is the Board of County Commissioners, what you guys will do. And you are already doing it, Macon County government's already doing it, and that is providing office space for us, providing our operating budget, which we submit every year to Derek and Lori and ultimately to you guys, both for our salaries and then how we can do our programs in the county. And so that's part of it. And then again, we would like to have input from you guys always to help us to be our ambassadors, but also to help the citizens of Macon County. The third part of the agreement is on what we mutually agree upon, and that goes into great detail more about the payroll process, which Macon County is already doing with NC State. And so one thing that I didn't explain very well is NC State has an extension center in every county, and long ago in the late 1800s and then in the mid 1900s, both the federal government began to have some acts and legislation that worked on a federal level and a state level for the land-grant universities in every state to have an extension outreach from the university to provide that information to the citizens in every county and every state. Now, some states are not as strong as how they used to be with extension, but in North Carolina still very much is. And so part of that is our salaries and what we do are paid part federal, part state, and of course, a big chunk is part county, which Dr. Bonanno is we call him Dr. B. He's our extension director, and he is just extremely grateful always for what the county governments do for the extension staff, basically serving the community. So part of that is then part of our salaries. Since we are state employees, the county has agreed in the past to whenever we have salary increase to match that what the state legislators vote upon. So also within the counties, each agent or director like myself, it used to be that our funding was 50% state, 50% county, and then over the years that language has changed in agreement with the county governments. So for example, I'm still paid 50% state, 50% county. Joe's like 80% county, 20% state. Kim is only 20% county, and then she has 3 other pots where she's funded. So each agent each position is just a little bit different, and so that's been updated in this language of this memorandum of agreement. So that's kind of the gist of it. I'm hopeful that you guys will be in agreement to renew our partnership, And I will also say, though, that I'm told that, you know, the last one that was done was in 2007. You know, if we wanted to change, if you guys want to change the wording or things next year, we can do it. Or 5 years from now, it can be done. They just ask you guys to let us have at least 120 days heads up so that we can get things up to speed. So do you have any questions, anybody?
I spoke with Christy. Christy, thank you again. Thank you for hanging around. You all do a great job. This agreement, as Christy said, this is the cooperative extension, trying to bring consistency across all 100 counties with this agreement. There's not going, in speaking with Christy, there's not going to be any changes in the way that we're used to doing business with the Cooperative Extension Office. So just to put that out there.
In MOU, it's the first time we've looked at since 2007?
Yes, and you didn't have a copy, but I did bring copies of that. But you do have a copy of like the summary of changes between the two?
Do we?
Wait, do we have a copy of that? That's what I was asking.
The summary of changes or the 2007?
Summary of changes.
Yes, I believe you do.
It was in the packet.
Would it be inappropriate for you to look at that just as since it's an agreement?
I'm happy to.
Did you have a problem with that, Christy?
No, I don't.
Just to maybe check the spelling?
Of course not.
Not much on the legal side, but you can get the spelling right.
Absolutely.
And then, so do we want to approve that based on his review to keep from going through this again? Is there a timeline? What's your timeline?
There's no timeline. They just hope to have it done by the end of the year.
Yeah, we got time.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no rush. There's no
do you
rush.
want action on it based?
We'll just let Eric get them billable hours up and bring it back to us.
And you won't have to come and sit here for 3 hours.
Spending money.
Unless he has more questions or something.
Okay.
Thank you for what you do for Macon County.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for waiting almost 3 hours to review this.
Well, right back at you.
Shauna's going to have the record.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to let our attorney.
Yeah, just standard procedure. Let him look at, bring it back, and if we need you, we appreciate you. We know where you're at.
Yep. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Shauna,
no, we're not there yet.
I know, but on appointment, you don't have to be here for that appointment.
I was told I had to be here because it was denied last time because you had questions about it.
Yep, y'all requested she come this meeting.
Pardon me.
She said, you should have let me speak in a public comment.
Yeah, I like what you tried to slip that in there, but guess who called her? A eagle eye. All right. What do we do next?
Ms. Braswell.
On the next.
Tax refund for parcels are located in Swain County. Tax Administrator Abby Braswell. Thank you, Abby. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I am coming to you tonight to request a refund for 12 parcels that have been taxed in Macon County. Since my records show 1985, it was before that, and we're not quite sure how long. But the State Board of Elections sends a weekly GIS jurisdiction audit to make sure that on all lines, these people that are on the lines are in the correct county. And they found that there's a group on the Swain County line, that there's 12 of them that are actually being taxed in Macon, but are actually in Swain County. So when those people went to vote at this last election, they were not allowed to vote in Macon County because they actually do not reside in Macon County. So the suggestion legally that we need to refund the last 5 years, and I did not bill them for 23, so the refund will be from 18 to 22 from us to them, to each current owner, property owner, and then Swain County is going to discover 5 years based on that. That's due to general statute. It's, you know, with the Jackson County line that we just went through, there was a lot of controversy of where the line is, and that was one thing that led to that line being surveyed. This is a very straight line. I put one in the packet, but that shows you, there's nothing, I mean, that would be a big waste of money spent on state money, actually, I believe, because that line is very straight. There's no, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that line. So we, me and the Swain County mappers and the county manager or the county assessor agreed that we don't see any problem with that line. So we would like to correct this because they will not be allowed to vote in Macon County. They will have to vote in Swain, and they're in Swain. So we're just going to correct the problem. So the refund is actually going to be, it's surprisingly less than what I thought it was going to be for those 5 years. It's $15,854.60.
What's the mill rate in Swain County?
They're a little bit higher than us, but for most of these years, they were a little bit lower than us. They're at like 32 or 34.
Just curious.
So yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you, Abby. You've heard the presentation.
Make a motion to refund it as presented. It's legal.
Well, in my purpose of refunding, it's an illegal tax. We're taxing property that's not in our county.
Second that motion.
Refund the difference. Right thing to do.
Yeah. Got a motion?
It's out of our control.
And where does that money come from to refund? Is it
Prior year taxes.
It comes out of
contingency?
revenue account. It comes out of revenue account. Any refunds come out of either the prior year, these will all come out of the prior year tax revenue. Because we collect probably close to $400,000 a year of prior year revenue, so this will just reduce that by the $14,000.
Any more discussion? Have a motion second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Abby, thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Abby.
Consent agenda.
Ma'am.
Anybody see anything in there that is concerned?
Chairman, on the consent agenda, I'd like to share with you, let's see if I can find it right here. We had a lot of discussion regarding the Molar roller, and I'd like to share, as part of the Department of Health Department, dental services. The Macon County Children's Dental Clinic, the Molar roller, provides comprehensive general dental services to children from birth to 19. Eligibility: resident of Macon County or enrolled in Macon County schools, ages birth to 19. Financial dental fees to be based on dental max rates plus Macon County Public Health fee adjustment based on the approved fee setting, and that's on the fee schedule that's provided. And then also there's a sliding fee for self-pay customers, and there's also a discount. But I just wanted to bring that up for the eligibility with the Molar roller. Bottom line is they have to be a resident of Macon County or enrolled in Macon County schools. I just remember Ms. McGay had reminded me of that due to our discussion, our heavy discussion of Molar rollers.
All right. Back to consent agenda.
And with that, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Appointments. Southwestern Community College Board of Trustees. I didn't make the agenda, Sean. We have one seat to the Southwestern Community College Board of Trustees. You want to elaborate on that, Mr. Shields?
Who's coming off? Or is this an extra? We've got Betty Walter, McCall, Joe, Clover.
I think it's a reappointment of Brett Rogers.
Okay. He's trying to make a motion, Brett Rogers. I thought I did that the last.
Oh, we did that.
Yeah, I thought I did this before, because I told him I'd done it. When we had a meeting. I'll do it again. Brett Rogers.
Second.
Are we certain about that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Shauna, welcome.
Thank you.
And we had a little poll in here last time. Nobody here knew what the jury commission is. And guess what? We've studied, we still don't know what it is.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it.
Our legal counsel did explain it to us some.
Okay, so I won't tell you anything about it.
No, please.
I need you to, please explain.
He just read from a book.
Me too.
Oh,
Wow.
So we have 3 members of the jury commission. One is appointed by the clerk of court, one is appointed by the superior court judge, and then one is appointed by you. I have 2 members that no longer want to be on my jury commission, so I'm having to come up with 2 new ones. I get the list from the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. They supply a list of registered voters and persons with driver's license every 2 years. The jury commission, they review the raw jury list to consider other citizens should be removed from that list. They do everything based on personal knowledge. So they just go through the list and they see if they know somebody that has passed away, doesn't reside in Macon County anymore, is a convicted felon, have been on the jury for the last 2 years, and they go ahead and they take those out of my list. Once they get through with the list, they give it to me, and I input it in the system, and that's who's on the jury for the next 2 years on a jury poll. So that's my jury commission.
so the commission, oh, go ahead, Ms. Shields.
I believe you and I have talked. Who was your recommendation?
My recommendation is Vivian Honey.
Honey?
Yes, sir. And I do have a letter from her because she cannot be here tonight.
Is what I read it. So now, when do the commissioners get appointed for? I've been here 10 years, 11 years. I've never heard this coming up.
I spoke with Mr. Perry about it because I'm new to this, and he said that he always just sends a name and it's always approved, and he's never had to come up here or anything.
And then,
Is this appointment your appointment or is this appointment the commissioner?
This appointment's the commissioner's.
This is
one.
their appointment, this one right here.
Yes.
This is the recommendation.
On your list that the clerk's office is recommending for
For
the
them.
commissioners to approve.
Yes, sir.
And then that comes up every 10 years?
Every 2 years.
2 years.
Everybody, any of them.
you?
Now, are you recommending
Paul been
Vivian?
voting on this
I am
every 2 years?
I am recommending the commissioners to vote in Vivian Honey. I have accepted mine, and the Superior Court judge has accepted who I've asked him to accept, and now I'm just asking for the Board of Commissioners to accept Vivian Honey. She has been a Macon County teacher for the last 23 years. She still tutors kids. She lives out in the Cowee school area. She's just a really good person, and I think that she would do a very good job at this. They meet, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Vivian Honey, she's really an exceptional individual. I know her. I know of her as well.
And they do meet only about 5 times in 2 years.
Okay.
They just go through the jury poll and see and do the list, and then they're done for the rest of the year and a half. So they meet maybe a week.
Well, I'd like to make a motion for this board to accept your recommendation for Vivian Honey.
Not second. Since we talked about it.
More discussion?
Yes, it's no, go ahead, sorry. I'm just gonna say thanks for waiting 3 hours to clarify that.
Thank you.
Future recommendation, you probably could have done that in public comment. So I'm sorry you make you wait.
Well, if you'd done your homework, know what jury commission was.
Well, I'll take the blame for some of that. I really had no idea. And thanks for the clarification. I do feel a lot better now understanding what
I
the
appreciate
You can sleep tonight?
Probably wouldn't have lost sleep, but I will sleep better.
Is that a paid, or are they just volunteer?
They're volunteers that I know of, yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen, we have a motion second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. At this time, is there a need for a closed session?
Let me ask a question. I see Mr. Gary's staying back there. Anything, Gary? I haven't seen you tonight. Are you just here visiting?
I'm late. All the excitement's over.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Any business that you, I'll see you in Rotary tomorrow then.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, you can conduct your business tomorrow.
Right.
No closed session?
I don't have any to my
All right,
knowledge.
we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved, Chairman.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you all. Thank the general public for being here tonight. Press, media, cameraman.